Good evening, viewers. Welcome to Friday's Regional News. We start with news from Honduras. Honduran President Xiomara Castro declared a national security emergency on Thursday and began implementing a new plan to combat the rising number of cases of extortion by violent criminal groups operating across the country. Castro's new measures would allow the suspension of some constitutional rights in areas with predominant criminal gang presence and deployment of 20,000 police agents, no security controls on road and measures against money laundering. Congress must still approve the suspension of constitutional rights, though the security plan came into force on Thursday. The declaration also authorized the Honduran government to make extraordinary use of public funds to combat criminal gangs known for their involvement in illicit activities such as kidnapping and drug trafficking. The leftist president announced a new plan to combat extortion affecting the impoverished Central American nation in a television broadcast. The plan follows pressure from businessmen, truck, bus, and taxi drivers, residents, and non-governmental organizations who say extortion, largely by the MS-13 and Mara Barrio 18 gangs, have worsened in recent months. In exchange for a so-called war tax, gangs offer protection or say that those who pay up will not be killed. The gangs have torched buses and killed drivers who did not pay the fee, prompting businesses and people to pay out of fear. This extortion generates annual profit equivalent to $737 million for the gangs, nearly 3% of the country's gross domestic product, according to the Association of More Just Society, a security force non-governmental organization. We now look at news from Venezuela. Venezuelan government and the opposition are preparing to resume political talks on Saturday in Mexico, after a hiatus of more than 1 year, opening a new chapter that will help pave the way for easing U.S. oil sanctions on the OPEC nation. The talks, set to restart on November 26, could alleviate its long-running political and economic crisis and open the doors for Washington to clear expanded operations in Venezuela by Chevron Corp. Previous talks were suspended in October 2021 by the government of President Nicolas Maduro, upset by the U.S. extradition of a businessman with ties to his administration. The talks are expected to cover a social plan to provide humanitarian aid of some $3 billion in UN-administered funds. They will also address U.S. sanctions on Venezuela, presidential elections, and status of hundreds of political prisoners. U.S. Department of State official Brian Nichols welcomed the return in dialogue among the parties. Renewed political dialogue in Venezuela have been repeatedly delayed due to disagreement over the terms, especially related to elections, and as well as the origin of the funds for the social plan. The United States was preparing and extended a license for oil company Chevron's operation in Venezuela if the meeting between the Venezuelan government and the opposition took place. Chevron could win U.S. approval as soon as Saturday, once the talks resume, which would help rebuild sagging oil production in the Latin American nation. We close with news from Colombia. Colombia's highest administrative court has annulled the appointment of Central Bank co-director Alberto Carrasquilla on the grounds that it violated the gender quota law, the court said on Thursday. Carrasquilla was appointed in August last year by former President Iván Duque, replacing Carolina Soto. The court said in a statement on Twitter that the appointment disregarded a law that rules that women participation at the highest decision-making level should reach at least 30%. With 5 full-term members, the 30% gender quota had been met with 2 women, it said, adding that following Soto's resignation, a woman should have been appointed. This did not happen. On the contrary, there were 4 men and a single woman representative. The court said that there would be no appeal against the decision. The central bank's co-directors are appointed by the president, so the court's ruling opens the possibility for the leftist President Gustavo Petro to name Carrasquilla replacement. The representative have fixed terms of 4 years, which can be extended twice, meaning they can remain in office for up to 12 years. Thank you for watching. I'm TIANA.